aggressively radished episode of the Dohyo to date. Like, what's up with Shodai? Stop throw!
Throw the salt, get in the ring. Welcome to the Dohyo.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Dohyo here on Mr. J-Wag's channel. Today's episode is all about Shodai. Like, how has that happened? If you had told me at the beginning of 2020 when I started doing these videos that I would have 2 videos up, one praising Goeido and another one praising Shodai, like within 5 videos of each other, I would have said that's crazy. What else could possibly happen in 2020 that would be more surprising than that? But before we get to everyone's favorite sort of off-baby blue Mawashi'd wrestler, we have some sumo shoutouts. First and foremost, we have a winner in our sumo music contest. It is Jake from Grand Sumo Breakdown. He has hashtagged picked the flannel with the quote sweet yellow one from the Kota Mitsuki episode. So here it is. You have picked the flannel. Here is your shout out, sir. Here is the file photo, of course. If you have not yet been to Grand Sumo Breakdown, go there. They have amazing stuff. They have a YouTube channel with all their stuff, and their address is below. Check them out. Now, some of you may think there are, like, shenanigans because I have worked with Grand Sumo Breakdown in the past, but Jake won because he was the only one who, like, actually correctly entered the contest. So, like, next time, you can win if you do that. Just enter. And another sumo shout-out, because we don't give enough shout-outs to these people, the people over at Sumo Reference. If you're ever wondering, like, hey, J-Wags, how do you get all these stats at your fingertips? Like, there's a website. Someone runs it. I think they live in Germany. They're awesome. All the sumo information you need, Sumo Reference. Okay, so I started watching sumo like November 2016. Kakuryu ended up winning that tournament, and that was sort of my entry point into watching sumo regularly. And there was a young Megashira named Shodai in that tournament, and he was like this whirling dervish sort of dude, and you couldn't quite get hands on him. He was like trying to fight a cloud, and he would find ways to win that other people necessarily couldn't do. He would find crazy ways to win at the bales, and I'm like, who is this young fighter? He got 11-4, got the Kanto show, and went up to Sekiwake in the very next tournament. He got a Makekoshi after that, and then sort of hung out in the Megashira ranks for the next 3 years, and that was sort of my intro to Shodai. And I never got why everyone was always talking about, like, Shodai. Why isn't he doing better like Shodai? I'm like, yeah, but he had that, like, one tournament when I just started, so my expectations were high from the beginning, but since then, he just seems to be, well, in the words of Fantasy Basho, content to be, like, one of the 20 best sumo wrestlers, but never one of the top 10. The first thing about Shodai that I noticed is that whenever you have someone in the tournament who's doing really well, you don't want them to face Shodai. Like, most importantly, I remember there was that tournament where it was like Tochinoshin and Kakuryu, and it was coming down to like, the last few days, and then like Tochinoshin faced Shodai. Then, of course, there ended up being the hashtag loose Mawashi thing that happened with Tochinoshin and Kakuryu later, but we won't go into that. Point is, Shodai is a guy who can somehow be slippery. And I'm not the only person to think this. Tachiai.org calls it cartoon sumo. They even call it that so much there is a searchable tag on their website for Shodai's cartoon sumo. And what they mean by that is that it's not really a plan, it's just sort of like a Tasmanian devil of arms and limbs that keeps you in the ring and somehow gets your opponent outside of the ring. Here is a perfect example. Alright, Shodai won that match. Check again. Yeah, he just tends to find ways to win that don't necessarily look that pretty. So why is that? Well, a lot of people have noticed, not just me, that he has a remarkably weird, some would say ugly tachi'ai, the initial charge. Again, I know I'm not the only one who thinks this because Tachiai.org has another searchable Shodai thing called Shodai blows a tachi'ai. A phrase I can only say on my YouTube channel because we all know what a tachi'ai is. Let's go back to Shodai's college years at the Tokyo University of Agriculture, not to be confused with the Tokyo University of Agriculture and Technology. Do not get them mixed up. That is Shodai's alma mater, and their mascot, I kid you not, is the Fighting Radishes. Now, while he was at university, Shodai ended up winning the amateur yokozuna status by winning one of the 4 major amateur tournaments that Japan has every year. Now, winning one of those 4 championships allows the winner to go and become a Makushita Tsukedashi. This allows them to start midway in the Makushita, which is the 3rd highest rank, which is a big deal because this cuts a lot of time off of your sumo journey to the paid ranks. Of course, Makushita being 1 below the paid rank of Juryo. So, Shodai was an amateur yokozuna and had the right to join Makushita, but he's like, no, I want to get my degree in food information science technology, which is true. But unfortunately, he did not qualify for amateur yokozuna in his junior or senior year, so he had to start his sumo journey at the very bottom. And guess what? He did really well. He ended up tearing through the lower ranks very, very quickly, and then rocketing through the ranks to the aforementioned Sekiwake tournament that I talked about before back in 2017. Quick sidebar about Makushita Tsukedashi. For a society that seems to value education as much as Japan does, it seems very shocking to me that there is not some sort of way to hold on to your university yokozuna status, but also graduate college and not have to re-earn that every year to have the Tsukedashi thing happen. I think Sumo agrees with me because in 2015 they added something called Sandanme Tsukedashi, where if you finished top 8 in any of those 4 amateur tournaments, I'll just list them below because I can't remember their very specific names. But if you finished top 8, you could start at the bottom of the Sandanme division, which is the 4th highest division. Not as good as the Makushita division, but it still takes tournaments off of your rise to Makauchi division. And the most important thing, as we know, for trying to get promoted in sumo is time. The first 2 people to ever receive the Sandanme Tsukedashi title were current Ozeki Asanoyama and current Megashira Yutakayama. And the year after that, current Megashira Wakataka Kage. Think this is awesome, good on sumo. Let's get wrestlers in there like fighting for their educations as hard as they fight for their sumo belts. Hakioi! So the question seems to be, what happened with Shodai to get him from sort of Megashira Shodai to like boss level Shodai? To my eye, it all comes down to, you guessed it, the tachi'ai. He has the weird, high, awkward tachi'ai. But you will notice one thing it does do is it keeps your head sort of out of the way. So if you are going up against someone who's going to throw a shoulder, or a kachiage forearm, or a harete slap, hello Hakuho, you are going to be less in danger of anything like that happening. Also, a high tachi'ai makes it easier to recover against a henka, because your head is up and you are looking at your opponent. Unfortunately, a high tachi'ai is usually very ineffective at what tachi'ai are supposed to do, which is supposed to move the opponent back with force. So if you look at Shodai's early work, he has his poor, weird, mediocre tachi'ai. Sometimes it's just him standing up. Who knows? But he absorbs the tachi'ai, keeps himself safe, and then engages himself either in his traditional yorikiri if he can get it right off the bat, but if he can't, cartoon sumo. Now, cartoon sumo just looks bad, and I understand why you sort of hate it, especially when Tochi Notion doesn't win another Yusho because of it. But you have to stop and think, how much balance and awesome reaction skills does it take to be able to pull that off in the top division of sumo regularly for years? Now, for those of you Jackie Chan fans and hashtag Chan stans, you know about the legend of Drunken Master. If you have to see one, see the second one. It's very good, and the English dub, not half bad. In that movie, of course, Jackie Chan masters the drunken style of kung fu where you appear to be drunk, but in fact are awesome at kung fu. I find cartoon sumo to sort of be in the same boat as that. You can't pull it off unless you are really, really naturally gifted at sumo. I just think Shodai has been so naturally gifted for so long and worked his way through the bottom divisions without really getting challenged, so he never had to develop another style of sumo. I think what we were seeing now is a maturation of Shodai's technique. He's just figured out a way to get his tachi'ai to be effective at the correct moment. I'm going to talk for a second about Abi. Now, Abi's energy sort of goes like a question mark. It comes up and over, and his idea of sumo is to get his hands in your face faster than you can get your hands up to protect it. So it's up and over, and it's not very grounded. Shodai, I guess the closest thing I can think of is like a Constantin Brancusi sculptor. You're aware, the Romanian artist, the father of modernist non-representational sculpture. Okay, I guess we're gonna have to talk about this. Constantin Brancusi, specifically I'm referring to Birds in Space, which is an abstract form, which is sort of a gentle arc coming up this way. Here's a picture, isn't it beautiful? Shodai's tachi'ai is like this abstract masterpiece. Follow me on this. This has a beautiful curve going constantly up. It's sort of like an inverted ocean wave coming into the sea. There is a point where an ocean wave has a lot of power and then it breaks. And then once it breaks, it has lost a lot of its power. Now in the Shodai tachi'ai, all of that energy seems to be rising up with the arms. So, like Bird in Space and a crashing wave on the beach, you just need to catch the tachi'ai at the exact moment. And I think now he has gotten good enough at this tachi'ai where he is hitting with regularity that point in the wave where it causes the most damage. Take a look here at Terra no Fuji from the last Basho. Excellent. Low tachi'ai causes a lot of damage and forces Terra no Fuji off balance, spins him around, and can get him out of the ring. Even tachi'ai.org had to give Shodai props for that tachi'ai. Every tournament, it seems like he's nailing that tachi'ai half or more of the time. And if he can do that, can he get an Ozeki run? Yeah. Is he in the discussion for winning a Yusho? Yeah, like, what world is this where we have, like, boss level Shodai? I'm not quite sure. So please, hit me up in the comments. What's up with Shodai? Thank you so much for joining us here on the Dohyo for this interesting episode. Those of you who want to know more about Constantin Brancusi, just hang out after the credits. I will talk for 2 minutes about how Constantin Brancusi fundamentally changed how art is handled in American law. Test me on this. This is the last episode before the Basho starts, or if I'm late in editing this, the Basho has already started, but I hope you still watch. Everyone stay safe. Stay strong, stay healthy, and I will see you next time on the Dohyo! Oh, you thought I was kidding. Oh no, we're going to talk about this. As I mentioned before, Constantin Brancusi is a sculptor of abstract nature. His most famous work is called Bird in Space. There's a number of these in the series. And this is a story about those works of art. So Brancusi was bringing the Birds in Space exhibition all the way to New York City to be shown there. Now, when it arrived in New York City, it was taxed with a custom. Now, it's not supposed to be because it's art, but because the customs inspector looked at this sculpture and said, well, that's not art, that must be something that's used in manufacturing, so we need to tax it like it is a piece of manufacturing equipment. This ended up going to court, and it took like 2.5 years to resolve this. So, long story short, American case law at the time said for something to be considered art, it had to sort of look like the thing it looked like with the correct proportions. That was an American law. So Brancusi, and frankly all the people who were involved in the art scene at the time, were kind of offended by this. They took the customs board to court, and they actually got it in writing legally that now in America, art does not have to be representational. So thank you, Constantin Brancusi. And to honor Constantin Brancusi, I have made a sculpture of him. I call this one Constantin Brancusi at a Nickelback concert, but sort of bored and looking at his phone. It's like I call it a dreidel sombrero. Thanks for all of you who stuck around and watched this. Let me know if you want me to do this again. Hit me up in the comments. We'll see you next time on the Dohyo.